Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, we're really glad you joined us and hope you like what you hear. Our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. In today's episode, we are going to challenge your assumptions and hopefully sharpen your mind. We're going to talk about peer pressure and groupthink. These are two powerful psychological forces that most of us think we're immune to, but we're not. None of us. Everybody is susceptible to peer pressure and to groupthink. Whether you're in a boardroom, a family dinner, or scrolling through social media, chances are you're being influenced more than you realize. Today, we're going to break down 5 classic studies or real-world happenings that show just how deeply this influence runs. And I'm going to give you real world examples for each, along with a concrete tip that you can use to resist it. So that's the episode. Let's just jump right into it. Number 1 is called the Ash Conformity Experiment. In the 1950s, a psychologist named Solomon Ash ran a simple test. He put people in a room and asked them to match line lengths. So there's 3 lines, 2 of them are 3 inches long, 1 of them is 5 inches long. They're on a piece of paper. And he says, which 2 lines, you tell me which 2 lines are the same, which 2 lines are equal. Pretty easy, right? But he rigged the experiment. All but one person in the room were actors. The one person was the subject. And the actors deliberately gave wrong answers, clearly wrong. Anybody with eyes that can see would know which 2 lines matched, and the actors matched incorrect lines. All of them. Everybody except the one person, the subject. So it's obviously shorter than the other, and it's being called the longest. Or these 2 lines match, and they're saying they don't. Very obvious, very straightforward. Everyone in the room but the subject is giving an incorrect answer. What was the result? Shockingly, 75% of participants conformed to the group's incorrect answer at least one time, even when they knew it was wrong. The pressure of being in a group of people you don't know who are clearly saying something different than what you can see is true, they conformed 75% of the time. What's a real world example of this? How could this happen in the real world? Picture yourself at a business meeting. The group is on board with a bad idea, but nobody wants to be the first to say, hey, this is a bad idea. You start second guessing yourself. Maybe I'm wrong, you think. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe they see something I don't. So you go along. You ignore your instinct, you ignore the facts in front of you, and you conform with the group. Not a great place to be. You've got to have some fortitude and say what you know is true. So how do we resist this? How do we resist this happening to us in the real world? Because it will happen to us in the real world. We will feel that pressure. Here's a powerful technique. Write down your own opinion before you hear others. This anchors your independent thinking and gives you the confidence to speak up, especially when you know something is off. So you can't just conform because everybody else says X. If you know X is wrong or you feel strongly that there's a different alternative, you have a duty and a responsibility to speak up and say so. Okay, number 2, the Mgram obedience study. This one's pretty crazy. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Mgram wanted to understand obedience to authority. He asked participants to deliver electric shocks to another person every time that they gave a wrong answer. So he's got the subject who is sitting at this board with switches on it. He's got actors, one acting as the scientist who's running the experiment, and one acting as the person who's participating in the experiment. The scientist gives questions to the participant. The participant who's sitting at the switchboard asks the question. If the subject answers wrong, which they're coached to do because they're in on the deal, the subject of the experiment has to give this person increasingly larger electric shocks. The shocks weren't real, but the participant in the study didn't know that. The man in the lab coat would tell them to keep going, even when the person on the other side of the experiment who was getting the answers wrong and who was supposed to be getting increasingly more electric shocks, increasingly more powerful electric shocks, was screaming out in pain, begging them to stop. Here's the crazy part. 65% of participants went all the way, delivering what they were told could be fatal shocks simply because they were told to do it. 65% of participants just kept doing it because the person in the lab coat told them it was part of the experiment. This might kill the guy, but do it anyways. And they did it. It's pretty crazy. So, in a real world example of this, think about following orders at work that feel unethical, manipulating data, misleading a customer, or staying silent about a safety issue. Those are all real things that happen. I was in this situation once personally. I actually did not conform, and it was kind of a tough road ahead of me after that. But I did the right thing, and I feel good about it. So how do we do that in the real world? How do we have the fortitude to stand up and say, this isn't right. I don't care that I'm supposed to do it. I'm not going to do it because it's not ethical. Someone's going to get hurt. It's stealing, it's cheating, it's illegal, whatever the case may be. You've got to have the fortitude to stand up and say that sometimes. So how do we do that? Use this mental tool called a pre-mortem. Ask yourself, if this turns out badly, you're asked to do something, ask yourself, if this turns out badly, what will I regret not doing or saying? That reflection gives you the courage to act according to your values before the damage is done, before the horses are out of the barn, before you can't unring the bell. Just don't ring it. And that's what you've got to do is before you take action, you've got to think about, am I going to regret this down the road? Is this sketchy? Is this going to be a problem for someone else? Is it going to cause harm? Is it going to cause me problems somewhere down the road? Ask yourself that before you act. And then you have a good kind of moral compass to work off of. Okay, number 3, the Stanford prison experiment. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo set up a mock prison in the basement of Stanford University. Volunteers were randomly assigned to be guards or prisoners. So he's got volunteers, you're a guard, you're a prisoner. Fake prison. Like it's not real. It's an experiment. Nobody's actually a guard or a prisoner. They're literally playing roles. It spiraled out of control fast. Within days, the guards became cruel. They humiliated and abused the prisoners. And Zimbardo, the lead researcher, got so caught up in his role as the prison warden, he let it continue. So, this is fake. It's absolutely fake. But because they're assigned these roles, they started to exert power and authority because they felt like they had it in this circumstance, in this environment. So the conclusion here is you can put good people into a bad system, and many will adapt to the role within the system, even if it violates their ethics, even if it goes against what they believe as a person. So, what's a real-life example of this? This is the psychology behind hazing in fraternities, behind toxic workplace cultures, and even behind law enforcement abuses when they happen. People start playing roles rather than thinking critically. This is how someone in this role acts. I'm going to act that way because I'm in this role. Doesn't matter that I disagree with it. It doesn't matter that I think it's wrong. It doesn't matter that I think it's unethical. This role is known for this behavior, and I'm going to exhibit this behavior. So, how do we resist this in real life? How do we stop this from happening to us in real life? One thing we can do is name the role. When you feel pressure to conform to a group identity, ask, what role am I being cast in? And is this who I want to be? Defining your personal code before you enter those environments can help you stay grounded and fight against unethical, immoral, or sketchy behavior that you don't want to participate in. But it's very easy to get caught up in the system and caught up in the role and start behaving in a way that you don't agree with. Even though you know consciously while you're doing it, you don't agree with it, you do it anyways because it's your role and it's in the system and it's what you're expected to do. So you do it. So name the role first. Ask yourself, what role is this that I am in? And is it who I want to be? Do I want to be in this role? So do that up front. It's going to help you in the long run. Okay, number 4, the bystander effect, the case of Kitty Genovese. So in 1964, a young woman named Kitty Genovese was murdered outside her apartment in New York. The crazy part about this is reports claim that 38 people witnessed parts of this attack, and no one stepped in or even called the police while it was happening. Psychologists studied this and coined the term the bystander effect. So I'm not going to get involved. It's not my business. I don't want to cause trouble. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just a fight that I don't want to be involved in. 38 different people saw some part of her murder and did nothing about it. Didn't even pick up the phone and call the police. So what's the conclusion here? The conclusion is that the more people that are around, the less likely anyone in that group is to step in and help. Everyone assumes someone else is going to do something. This is they. They should do something. They should make a law. They are people. They is us. They is you. And the bystander effect is very real. It's for some reason, people really have a hard time stepping up in a group and saying, I am going to intervene here and do the right thing. So someone collapses on the subway. Everyone looks, but nobody moves. Or there's a fight at school. The phones come out. Nobody intervenes to stop it. No one intervenes to shut it down. Nobody intervenes to keep people safe. Everybody stands and watches. The bystander effect. So, how do we overcome this in the real world? One simple question to ask yourself. If not me, then who? If it's not going to be me that steps in, then who's going to step in? If something seems wrong, don't wait for someone else to act. Take the initiative. Even stepping forward and saying, are you okay, can break the group paralysis. Just the simple act of stepping up and saying, hey, we've got to stop this. Maybe 2 or 3 other people jump in, but everyone's waiting for someone else to take the first step. So ask yourself that question. If not me, then who? If not me, then who? That will help you come out of the kind of paralysis you're in and take action to intervene in a situation where you know someone needs to intervene to help out. Okay, the 5th one is a study called the Smoke-Filled Room Study. This one's another classic. Researchers put participants in a room to fill out a survey. They're just sitting there filling out surveys. Then, while they're doing this, they quietly started pumping smoke into the room through a vent. No fire, but there's smoke coming out of the vent. Everybody's in this room filling out the surveys. Smoke starts coming out of the vent. When people were alone, if there was one person in the room, they quickly jumped up and said, hey, there's smoke coming in this room. We got a problem. But when they were in there with actors who ignored the smoke, only 10% of the participants said anything, even when the room was getting visibly smoky, making people's eyes water, making people cough. Let's say there's 10 people in the room, 9 of them are actors, and one of them is the subject of the study. Because the 9 actors sat there and acted like nothing was wrong, the actor or the subject did the same thing. They conformed to the behavior. Only 10% of participants actually said, hey, something's wrong here. We got smoke coming in. We got a problem. So the conclusion here is we doubt our own senses when the group ignores something, even something dangerous. What's a real life example of this? I mean, that's a pretty pointed illustration from the study. But in the real world, you're in a meeting and everyone glosses over a serious issue, declining sales, employee misconduct, or a financial red flag. You might hesitate to raise your voice, and that's not where you want to be. So the way to resist this one is tried and true. Trust your instincts. Say, I could be wrong, but something doesn't feel right. That simple sentence opens the door without making you confrontational, and it gives others permission to speak up too. But you got to trust your gut. You've got to speak up and say, hey, maybe I'm crazy here, but something's off. I don't get it. I don't understand why we're not looking at this, or I don't understand why we're not more concerned about this. So I could be wrong, but something doesn't feel right. Just making a statement like that will open the door for others to participate and kind of break the tension around that subject. So let's just recap real quick the 5 studies we covered. The Ash experiment. People conform even when they know it's wrong, right? The lines are clearly, they're identifying the incorrect lines. Everybody else in the room is certain, and you know they're wrong, and they conformed anyways. The Mgram study. People obey authority over their own morals. Stanford prison. Roles and systems override ethics. The bystander effect. More people, less action. And the smoke-filled room. People ignore dangers if others do too. So here's the big takeaway to all of this. We like to believe that we're independent thinkers or we're not influenced by our surroundings. But history and science show otherwise. If you don't train your mind to think critically, you'll end up following the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong. This is the big impact that social media, the negative, in my opinion, the negative impact social media has on our society. Everyone posts their highlight reel. Everyone's doctoring their photos. Everyone's using AI to make things look like the world is a perfect place that they live in. And we all know it's bullshit. But tons and tons of people go along with it because they're influenced by all of the things that we just talked through. And it's human nature. Unfortunately, it's hardwired into our brains and our DNA. So we have to consciously fight to think critically and make sure we're making decisions that we can live with down the road. So next time you're feeling that twinge of doubt, pause, ask yourself, am I thinking for myself? Would I feel differently if I were alone? Am I avoiding action because I'm afraid of standing out or being judged or being called stupid? That moment of reflection can be the difference between going along and doing the right thing. Okay, hope you guys found that helpful. We thought it was important to talk about. Thought it was a really powerful episode, and we're all susceptible to this groupthink, to this conformity, this peer pressure that's out there. We've got to train ourselves to think critically. We've got to train ourselves to be independent thinkers. We've got to train ourselves to push back when we know things aren't right. So that's the big takeaway from today. Hope you found it useful. We enjoyed putting this episode together. So James puts it up over here every day. Don't forget to head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes are available there. All the links to our social media accounts are there. And we've got a newsletter we publish every weekday that you can subscribe to on our website as well. And please, please, please like, comment, share, subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful for us if you're able to do that. So this episode will air on a Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. Glad it's hump day. We're over halfway there. Everybody have a good week. Finish your week strong, and we will see you on the next episode.